hello, my Sparkle sisters. Happy Winning Wednesday. Oh my gosh. I hope you are ready for a fun day. I don't know how long this is going to be. So it could be, I know it's not going to be short. I will tell you that. What we are excited about today is our emotional toolbox, right? So we're excited about the tools that we put in. Veronica, my bestie, is going to be sharing with some more things to put in here today. Thank you all so much for all of you all that have shared this. Y'all, we are just a couple people shy of 6,000 people in this group. What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I am just so honored for all of you all in the comments. And y'all know that everybody that listens lives and comments today, then I return your message. And then throughout the week, me and Samantha do that. So for y'all that make this a priority, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to all of you all again that are sharing. So let's jump right in because I don't want to miss a minute with Veronica Eyck. I'm telling you, she's going to blow your mind. And she's truly the example of the woman who decided to erase and replace her thoughts, her minds, her thighs. Like got new hair, got it all. So if there's something about you don't like, just fix it, staple it, buy it, do whatever, so that you so you get to love your life. So all right, let's talk about our emotional toolbox of grit. We already talked about, our glitter, right? We talked about when people are not all in on you and your calling. We said it was not a conference call, right? We're just going to wipe their name right out of off of our wherever you need to, right? And say, bless their little hearts, we're going to squirt ourselves with glitter. We talked about last week, our little filter, right? Mine is called a Jesus filter. You call your filter whatever you need to call it. Mine's a Jesus filter, so that those thoughts that run across your head, right, that have letters like WT, you fill that out, right? Whatever that is, right? It goes through the filter and you're like, what the hey who? Wow. So that's not where it starts, but that's where it comes out. Last week we talked to Melissa, right? And we talked about those gumball people in our life, those 8 gumballs. And in fact, Melissa and I are going to pull together some leaders. And what we're going to do is we're going to put together, she's going to put it together. I'm just going to kind of help her out with that, is from a coaching standpoint, what that's going to look like for those of us that are looking for team members, kind of who to avoid and how to make sure you are not a gumball person. So she's going to be working with that. So we're super excited. Today we are going to erase and replace, right? Erase and replace. We're going to just start out like with my book here. Again, no requirement to get the book. At this rate, we should be done about the time I'm 107. We're working about 3 pages a week. So right now, last week we talked about chaos. If you've got chaos happening in more than one area of your life, sister, you might want to look in the mirror, right? Okay. And so this week, what we're talking about is erasing and replacing. And so what is a label? Right? What is a label? A label are personal perceptions of our life experiences and conversations. Label are emotions. They are how we feel and think about a situation. These emotions are determined in our heart and not in our head. We are not talking about logical, rational thinking. We're talking about, I need to eat a whole tub of ice cream kind of thinking, right? So just to give you some ideas, these are some that I put in here. And you think about this in your life, I'm the dumb one, right? So that does not serve you well. That is not who God said you are. That's not what you even want to be true. So what you have to do is you've got to capture that thought, right? We talked about just because a thought goes through your mind doesn't mean you have to capture it, hold on to it, make it your own. Just let it just keep on going, right? Just let it keep on going. But what if it is stuck around, right? And you've thought about it enough that it's kind of sticking there, you erase it. And that would be, I am the smart one in these areas, right? I think sometimes we got to realize we're not smart in everything, but if we can find what we're good at and get so good at that. This is one that, I can share about this because my parents have passed and my sister and we talk about this a lot. Like our parents, they loved us so much, like more than air, but they always said Diana is the smart one and she's the lucky one. And Donna, she's the unlucky one. Like if anything bad could happen, it's going to happen to Donna. Veronica knows my sister really well. We're all really good friends. And so like, if, like all of this. And so like literally that's what they spoke into her life. Well, not only did it become a label for Donna that she attracted every kind of gumball fella and all these things in her life, what it did is it, it impacted how our parents treated us. Like they always said, okay, Diana's smart and independent. So they made me make good choices. So I became what? Independent. My sister, poor Donna, right? They smothered her. And it really wasn't until it was later in life. And really, we were in Mary Kay and we were going through all this. And she's like, that's not true about me. And I don't want it to be true. So we made a decision as sisters. We are not receiving that anymore. And we're going to do our best to train our old parents not to do that. And then whenever they said it anywhere, we're like, oh, we're not going to receive that. So I wonder who in your life that you love so much, you need to recognize that whatever people have said about them, it's not true. You don't want it to be true. And how is it impacting that you're working with them? So y'all can start typing in some of these labels. Another one is, this is not what we do in our family, right? This is not what we do. Veronica and I, both of us grew up with families who love safety and security. Go get that job, go get that degree, and run that bad boy in the ground. And that you're going to be held in esteem by how many letters are after your name and the title that you hold and that 9 to 5. Veronica and I realized, oh my gosh, you know what? It takes a whole lot more faith to go into a job that you hope somebody's going to pay you for. It takes a lot more faith to go in and go to work for somebody that could quit at any moment. It takes a lot more faith to go in and work for somebody that you're building their dream life versus the faith of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. That's it. I will be my own boss. I will decide. I will rise and fall on this, right? And so this is what me and my family do. And then the last one, we talked about this, and then I'm going to lead into Veronica, and that is, I'm the wrong color, right? I'm the wrong size. I felt like, I mean, you've always been white. But whenever we get into, well, you've been very tan before. You have been very tan when you were over in Iraq. You got pretty tan. But what I mean by that is that, as a lot of times, I was just reading an article about young men that they're doing all of this plastic surgery now as well. Like they're now getting into this same dangerous situation of, I am not enough. I'm the wrong color. I'm the wrong size. I'm the wrong height. There's some things where they're adding inches, right? There's surgeries. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're spending time and money that we could be investing in making the world a better place instead of focusing in on what I am not enough of. You are exactly who you need to be. You were born exactly at the time you needed to the parents that you needed to be. And in order to do that, you've got to have some resilience and you got to have some core values. So let me introduce you to truly one of my best friends on the planet. We've known each other now for over 25 years. Take a look at this. So as we go through this, you might not even recognize her. Veronica is, of course, an Army veteran, grew up in the Shreveport, Louisiana, Bossier City, Louisiana area, just grew up in a home, brothers, sisters, all of that. Just always knew she was a little different. So she went right into the military to serve in the Army, went out to become a news producer, which you can see here. And then that, in fact, was whenever we met. She was married at the time, a couple of kiddos, very unhealthy, very unhealthy. We're gonna dig into that. She went over to Mosul to serve, and this is who you see over here, and went through a very traumatic situation. A bomb went off in the mess hall where she was at. One of the soldiers, Sergeant Ruby, passed away in her arms, has really been going through a lot of PTSD, going through all of that, has dedicated a big portion of her life for veterans, came back unknowingly with a related lung disorder. Many of you all have heard about that. In fact, has been on Fox News to fight right alongside Jon Stewart on being able to get rights and benefits. She's almost died twice. One time I was with her whenever that happened. Well, really, I think you flatlined, I think 3 or 4 times whenever I was with you that time. But prior to that, and she just willed herself out and just knew that God had so much more for her. You take a look at erasing and replacing. With the last time I had seen Veronica before we connected 3 years ago, before she came back into the Mary Kay world to join me as a national sales director before I retire. This was Veronica. You see her over here. Through that time and through all of the deployments, she said, that is not who I am. I know that there's a giant within. And she discovered her. And this is her through some of her health issues, met the man of her dreams, had the wedding of the century. I got to go hang out with her. And here she is looking to the future, not just for her, but for every woman that God puts in her path. I mean, what a life, what a story. Needs to be a movie. And we're so honored that you would be here. Veronica, when you hear about about your life, what is it that you think? Like, I'm just always awed that number one, you choose me to be your friend, that you choose to come alongside me and Mary Kay to change lives through this vehicle of Mary Kay and through, social media. But for you, when you hear that, what comes to mind?
Well, the word resilience that we talked about before, there's so much to unpack throughout my life.
Yeah.
And and I do think while a lot of it was very, very difficult and has taken a lot of therapy to get through, it has made me who I am today. It has made me someone who knows what is possible, who knows what people can accomplish. And sometimes maybe I'm not as empathetic as I could be because I know, what you could do, what I know what's possible, right? No matter what the situation is. But I do believe that everybody has the ability to be resilient. And there are strategies that can be put into place. There are tools that can be used. And, that's the key to it. We live in a nation now or a world now where buzzwords are words like anxiety, trauma. Everybody has trauma. I mean, there's little trauma, there's big T trauma, there. And then, but the thing is, if we can learn the tools, right? If we can learn how to cope and have those skills in place, which take a lot of practice, which take a lot of effort, then we can be better on the other side of that, and we can help others, which is what I try to do with the platform that I have now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we talk about, that God has saved you for this season of your life, right? That through all of that is because you were not done, right? And that, let's go all the way back. Let's go all the way back growing up.
Mhm.
And tell us a little bit about that. And as you came out of that, say, growing up with a very intriguing mother, we'll talk about that. What tools did you acquire as you were stepping out of that situation? Um, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so both my parents, professionals, scientific world, that kind of thing. It was expected that we would all either become doctors or, something in that field. My sister's a dentist, my brother is a cardiothoracic surgery PA, and I was supposed to be a trauma surgeon. Here we are. Um, and so that was just kind of what was expected. And, I had different plans in life. I had different ideas, different goals, and I was always the wayward middle child, and that was that label that was put on me, always the attention seeker. And which then potentially, I mean, my thought is if you're constantly told you're the attention seeker, then later in life, that's what you look for in relationships, right? So they become very superficial relationships. I think last week, that's what she was talking about. Melissa, right? She was talking about the attention seeking is just because you can't have that in-depth relationship with someone, that deep relationship. That was me. Oh, that was me. So, I mean, that kind of led to that. But what I did get from my childhood is work ethic. I got work ethic, and I got that women are supposed to be successful. And that, I mean, my father cooked every meal. So I remember one time my parents got separated for a very short period of time, and we were with my mother, and I thought we might starve because she had never cooked a meal or gone to the grocery store. So I didn't know how we were going to eat. That's all I was worried about. When we going to eat? so, so I mean, that was the roles were a little bit different in our family, but definitely, that professional level and very hypercritical. More so my mother, extremely critical. And, come to find out years later, it was more to just kind of cover up things that she had done in her life that she couldn't admit to, which is no big deal. I mean, it's really no big deal. But the lies, the lies that are covered up by this, what it looks like, what our family image is, right? Our family name. If I hear that one more time, our family name. I was so glad to change my name finally. Again, anyway, that's a whole other story. But
We'll
um,
get there. Yeah, we'll get
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. So that those are the kinds of things that we grew up with, and in the deep South where that's you got all this tradition and things rooted there, and so I think it was the hypercriticalness that really, in some ways, made me a hard worker. I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily change the way I was raised at this point because I don't know what that would look like otherwise. It would be nice to have good relationships with my family now and have that closeness that you hear about. Like I know you talk about with your sister and your mom, and y'all were all really close. I never really had that. And I also never had a mother who taught me how to have good, solid relationships with other women. That was just not something that she was capable of. So we never saw that. So it was really difficult for me to make good, solid girlfriends. But I really credit you, Diana, for being the one who taught me that at still a somewhat impressionable age. And because I was in my early 20s when we first met. So I think that was a game changer for me, you know, to be for relationships. And
Yeah.
anyway, so but like I said, I think the biggest things that I took with me were the ability to have really good work ethic. That was just ingrained in me,
Mhm.
and to know that women are supposed to succeed in this world.
Yeah, one of the things I've always admired about you is that you are unapologetically a great that you love to work. And it was so funny. I was talking to a girlfriend of mine. You know how like you're just like in a group and like you have like almost this out of body experience, like you're kind of listening to it and you're in it, but then you're also like really listening. And a girlfriend of mine just got her master's degree, and like for an entire year, like the girl has worked tirelessly, like has worked all day and then got her master's. And everybody in this little thing kind of comes back to what you were talking about. They're like, you go, I'm so excited for you, this is great. And like they're okay with somebody spending another $60,000 to get another degree, to work 5, 6 nights a week and the weekends, and to lose time in relationships. And they hold that in high esteem. She got no pay raise, she got no nothing, but she had to have it for her job. And yet when she was working her Mary Kay, if she did 2 nights a week, they're like, oh, you got your priorities out of whack, you can't do that, you're working too much. Like, where's your priorities, where's your balance? And like it drives me insane. Like, at what point do we realize that whenever we invest our time into a business, like all of us that are under my voice, go find a small woman-owned business to buy something from, like support her family, but not just even with your money, but with your words and your referrals and all of that, that having a strong work ethic is a big deal. Now that is a label that as women, I will tell you, as a whole, America, they don't hold that in high esteem. So Veronica, good for you for saying that will be a positive label, because sometimes you don't have to change the word, you have to change how you look at that. So how is that? Let's go back to the that work ethic. You went into the Army, right? So let's kind of talk about that work ethic, because we're going to build on your core values, right? So that's kind of what we're doing is building this. So in your toolbox, okay, I've got this strong work ethic, hypercritical mom, which means I'm an overachiever, right? So you also use that as a positive. Some people use it to pull back, you used it to really achieve. So let's talk about your Army times, again, as a veteran. Tell us about that. What tools did you gather up when you were in your early 20s in the Army?
Yeah, so I think, the reason I went into the Army, I actually went in when I was 17 years old, and my mother had to sign the paperwork. Now,
Yep.
she did hold the recruiter against the wall and told him that if anything happened to me, she would come after him. So that was interesting. But I kind of weaseled my way in by telling her I'm joining the National Guard to pay for college. So she was okay with that, because they were going to pay for my college, but I had to live at home and do what I was told, and that didn't work for me. So so I was like, no, I'm going to go pay for it myself, and I'll move out. So I think she just bought into it because it was going to pay for college. Well, then right in the middle of all that, I went through basic training, and then you take that summer, you go back. Well, you go to basic training in the summer, and then you go back home, you go to college, and then you go back to your next school, which was called AIT, which was my medic training. And I think she was okay with it because I was going to medic. I was becoming a medic, and my plan was to become, go into the medical field, right? So she thought, okay, this looks okay enough. Well, came back from basic training, and I was in college, and Desert Storm kicked off, and then my unit got called up. Well, they wouldn't send me. I was like begging. I'm like, I'll guard the weapons, just let me go. And the whole thing is like, I just wanted to do, I don't know why, something ingrained in me that I do hard things, I do tough things, I go to war, I run to the crash, I run to danger. I don't know why I'm geared that way, but for some reason I do. So I
It's true.
so went to basic training, which was not the best experience at all. It was pretty horrible. I was like, I can't have my lip gloss. Excuse me. You know, I mean, I do hard things, but I still like my lip gloss, you know. So that was an eye-opening experience. But I got through that, you know, had a few little injuries with stress fractures and stuff. And then anyway, so Desert Storm kicks off. I want to go. They won't let me, but they said we're going to send you to AIT, which is your training for medic school. So I went to medic school, did that, really fell in love with the Army there and all the things I could do as a medic. And so I was like, I want to go active duty. So as soon as I came back, I was working on an ambulance, and then I went active duty, and I was 18 at that point, so I could do what I wanted, you know. So I didn't need my mom's signature. So it kind of was my way to weasel my way in, you know. And so I got in, went active duty, and then I went to Korea for a year. And during that year, met my first ex-husband. Look, here's this. Here, let me just, all the girls, young girls listening, even if you're not young, the man you meet when you're in Korea and you're dancing on a table in a bar singing Paradise by the Dashboard Light, he is not the one for you, okay? Please take my words. And if you don't know what that is, it's a song by Meatloaf. Anyway.
Okay. What a tool for your toolbox. That's a good tool. Right. Yes. Who
So if you're dancing on a table and you meet him and you're singing, it's not the one, okay? Anyway, so lo and behold, I end up pregnant in Korea. And so so I came back home, you know, I ended up getting all these stress fractures again. And they're finally like, look, girl,
that table dancing, that's hard, isn't it? That's hard work, isn't it?
hard on the bones. So anyway, so I came back from Korea like a total hot mess express, pregnant, stress fractures everywhere. And they're like, okay, we're going to put you out on a medical. So that was back in the day when they were like, you know, cutting the forces. And anyway, so I got out, ended up getting married because again, it was the right thing to do to look right. We needed, you know, to save the family name. Even the write-up in the paper was all a lie. So anybody watching this, the whole write-up in the paper, he was going to work for the Defense Department. It was all a lie, just so that it could look good for our family, you know, that why we had to rush our wedding. Yeah, it was really because I was pregnant. So
yeah, you know, I think, you know, there is such a pattern where, you know, the woman that you are today, you know, I think about, you know, and again, we've been together and we're fixing to kind of walk into a little bit of that. But I think about how honest you are, like to the point that a lot of people don't even know how to take you because you are honest. That's it. And there is no fluff. There is no, you don't embellish. And that you are who you are unapologetically. And of all the things that I would love for a woman would be not to necessarily have to go through all the things that you did to get to this point, but that at any point a woman can make a decision that I will no longer live a life that other people think is a good life.
mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, you just wonder with all of those situations, you know, could you have stayed in and the different things that go along with that? Because really it was at that point you out of the Army, you go to work for, was that your first news produce? Was that kind of when you started?
No, that was later. I met you before I was even in the news business. I
Okay.
was still like trying to be a nurse or something. I don't know. I was going
I remember it was
in and,
something. Yeah. Yeah.
in and out of college, you know, in and out, like, you know, I was like at this point just living in such a trauma cycle with the first husband. He was horribly abusive, emotionally, physically, any way you can imagine it happened. So, and I had a child, and, you know, and then I'm trying to make everything look right. And, you know, you don't call the police in those situations, you know, not back then, because what would people think of my family? You know, so like ridiculous. Don't, like, I'm being sarcastic. Like, please do call for help in that
Right.
situation, which is what I should have done multiple times. But because of what I was afraid it would look like, I didn't. And because I fought back, and I probably would have been the one going to jail. So
Tom and I, we lived down the road. At one point we lived in, he said, well, I don't know if she's safe, you know, with him. And I'm like, I don't think she's going to take much. But all of that to be said for any of you all, you know, that it is so important that whenever you are in an unhealthy, don't think about what other people are saying, because I think about your boys, right? You went on to have 3 children with this man. Almost every time you almost escaped, it seemed like that you were pregnant and you just kind of got sucked back into that. And so I would ask you, coming out of a truly unhealthy relationship, years of that, what tools do you feel like that you gathered up, right, that would serve somebody, that would serve women, whether or not they're in an abusive situation or not? What tools did you come out of that season with?
Well, really the tool of not really caring what other people think anymore. And I just had to break that cycle from my family. And um to I was so like, at some point you start to believe what you're told, right? Just like as a child. And I was told every day that I was fat, that I was ugly, that no one would ever want me, that I was never going to make anything of myself, that, if I left him, I would be homeless, and, like all these things. Like, you have no way to support yourself. You have no, although at times I was the one making the money. When I was a news producer, I was the one with the steady job, but I still believed it. I still believed I could not live without him. And so it really took me going to Iraq as a contract employee,
Yep.
which was after we had known each other a while. I left to go to Iraq. There were a few reasons. One, I felt called because I missed the boat, so to speak, in Desert Storm. And number two, I had to get away. And it was a way to make some decent money that was tax free, and then be able to finally have a cushion to stand on whenever I came back, file for a divorce, pay those fees, all of that stuff. That was the biggest thing. And I knew I'd have to fight for custody, which ended up being over 30 grand at that time. That was, however many years ago that was, just to get custody of my own children, because I did leave for a year. And so, it was a pretty horrific, it was like going from one war zone to another.
Mm-hmm.
And just the battle, the mind battle that was going on, with him. Like, he would threaten to hurt the kids to get at me, and just, it was awful. And then no one would listen to me. Finally, I just had to break the law and not let the kids go to him anymore. And I'm like, come after me,
Yeah.
like, at some point you're willing to go to jail, because you just have to. After Iraq, I became so much stronger.
Yep.
Even though I was so broken, it was crazy. I came back so broken from PTSD, just multiple levels of it at this point, and the horrible things that happened there. But I was so, like, determined, and like, come at me, bro. Like,
Yeah.
let's go. Like, I was.
That is so true, because your perspective, right? You're sitting in the mess hall, a bomb goes off, right? And this young woman passes away in your arms, and puts everything in perspective, how precious life is, how not in control we are, what true trauma is. Coming out of that, I think that there's so many things that I respect about you, Veronica. And again, no judgment on how anybody handles that situation. None, because I do believe people are doing the best that they can. I admire that whenever you came back from that, is that you would find a way to honor Sergeant Ruby with your life. And I believe that it was that point that you really got strong. And that whenever it came to the hard things, that you went back to that, Veronica, I do hard things. I run to be able to help people. Coming out of that, let's say coming out of that situation with that Sergeant Ruby, coming back, truly wounded, what tools would you feel like that you picked up, emotional tools, to be able to come back into society and then be able to have any joy or
Yeah.
happiness? Because that enters the season, really, that's your season of where you started to shine after that. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
So one of the things when I first came back, that was 2005, which there wasn't a whole lot known about PTSD at that point. The VA wasn't really doing anything with that. I am a disabled veteran from, the stress fractures and stuff and other stuff that happened. So I had access to the VA, but they weren't even doing anything with that at the time. But there was a psychologist who worked with the fire department and the police department in Shreveport. He was their chaplain. So he was very faith-based in his field of work, and he was also their critical incident stress debriefer for the fire department. So I went to him. I said, if anyone understands like war zone like issues, it's him. And so with him, we decided, like, one of the things I wanted to do was go meet her family and be there to answer any questions that they may have. And so I actually flew there on the one anniversary. I flew to El Paso, Texas on the one anniversary, the first anniversary of her passing, and just met with her family, went to her graveside, and it was just a very, like, beautiful experience. And I felt like I received some forgiveness, although realistically I didn't need it, that what like reality wise, I didn't need that, but I felt like I needed them to just tell me it was okay, that they understood I did everything I could. And I wanted them to know that their daughter was not alone when she passed away and that we did not give up on her. And so that was it. They did ask for I went on their prompts, and that was just a really healing journey. I didn't want to put more on them than they wanted to know. I just waited for them to ask. Now they only spoke Spanish, so I did have like some people there to help me with language and everything. So it was a beautiful experience. And I came back, and then I ended up moving down to the Fort Polk area of Louisiana shortly after that, and was able to go through some really good treatment there at the hospital where I did what's called EMDR, which is a type of eye movement therapy for trauma, which goes levels and levels deep. And that was helpful. And so, kind of like my fitness journey, so has my emotional journey gone. Like you do a little bit here and you learn it, and then you go here and you learn a little more, and then you start like, oh, what about yoga? Well, what about meditation? Well, what about breathing? Well, what about, and so you start exploring more and more things if you're one who's willing to work on it. And that's what I did. So the toolbox that I have created now really is more of like an emergency toolbox for my emotional management. So there are days when I can tell, and I still go to therapy at least once a month now. Like I've graduated from every week now to then every other week now, once a month. So one of the things that she helped me develop was this emergency toolbox that I can go into, whenever I start feeling that depression or anxiety or any of those things kind of coming on. And so my number one, and so I have it on my phone in a note, right? So that because when you're in that moment and you're just feeling like, I don't know, and I deal with a lot of pain as well from just the medical stuff, which we'll probably get into later. But pain also can wear on your emotions and make you feel depressed. So when you're in that mode, you might not remember what to do. You may not remember. So I have it on a note here in my phone. It's called Toolbox. And the first one, number one, is a hot shower. For me, a hot shower just can get me out of it, right? But I have some other things too. I have walk outside, sunshine, grounding. So standing on the ground barefoot if it's warm outside, not in the snow, obviously. That doesn't do anything for me, but make me mad. Then brushing my teeth. Sometimes brushing your teeth, like it just helps you with that. I don't know. I don't know why it helps me, but this may not be for you. You have to think about things that make you feel better immediately. And preferably healthy things, because I could have put like sugar on here and and eating a whole bag of Oreos or something, but that's not healthy and that's not what we want to do here. Okay. Pick up a book. So all around the house, my house is littered with books, littered with them. And inside a book, I can open any book. My husband jokes about how I destroy every book because I highlight all in it. He's like, don't send me one of those that you've already destroyed. Can you send me a new one? Anyway, but in every book, there's highlighted. I could literally just pick this up and go, okay, and I'm going to read this and I'm going to see, does that life is not pass or fail. It's about impact and effort. Oh, okay. I can take this. I can work on this right now. You know what I mean? Like there's always a little jar, but maybe it didn't work. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to read this one. You know what I mean? Until I find one that is going to fix me right now, help me right now to see something better. And so that's something that I'll do as well. I have my 4-7-8 breathing, which is inhale for 4 counts, hold it for 7 counts, exhale for 8 counts. Great for anxiety. Will absolutely physiologically keep someone from going into a panic attack. Physiologically, because it sets your it resets your nervous system. So that way you can't go into a panic attack if anybody has those. So 4-7-8 breathing. And I'm just repeating what my therapist told me. I'm not a therapist. I'm just repeating what she said. And then I have these ketones that I like to drink that have caffeine in it. I can drink a ketone pack, kind of gets me a little more energy because sometimes it's just an energy slump that I'm feeling. And if I come out of that, then I won't go into the depression. And then any of the podcasts that I love to listen to, like Ed Milet, like Andy Frizella's podcast, any of those, I'll go listen to one. And usually they give me that little extra lift. So I have my list. And all you need is like 3 to 5 things. And you don't need that many, just 3 to 5 things that work for you, but keep them handy so you can always refer to them. I know like my friend Teresa, she uses them too. She has like certain prayers that she likes to have scripture, in different books, different podcasts, different songs. Music is what speaks to you. So yeah, there's just whatever works for you.
And I would love for y'all to type in the comments, like, which ones of these would you use? Because that's really, before we got started on this, that's what we were praying for is, that, obviously she didn't go through all of this to live in a vacuum, like the whole thing. And for all of you all that are erasing and replacing, and that's why you're plugging in here, is so that you can get to the other side. But it's not just for you, it's for you to get to the other side so that you can get a toolbox, so you can throw the life raft back to the next woman who takes your hand and be able to come through the valley and be able to do that. That's how we change the world, right? That is definitely how we change the world. And I know we've just got probably about 10 more minutes left here, because as you're kind of going through that toolbox, that's so good. I was telling you the other day, I had some tests and the results came back good, which was great. But it's where they put you in a tube and for like a long time, and this nurse had told me everything that could happen, and like everything. And I was like, I'm not doing this. I didn't think this was that big of a deal, but literally, like, she told me everything. And I said to the tech, I said, she's oversharing. I said, the key to this is if somebody's in that tube and they're having a problem, just say, oh, that's normal, but don't plant all this. So whenever I got around, I prayed over her, I prayed over the room, all of that. And then I'm like, okay, here I am, 4, 7, 8. So, and it was fine. And so, I think that these things are so good. I love that you put them where you can see them, because when these things start, you're not thinking normal. I think that is so true. But where I do want to kind of talk through this is, again, with just a couple more tools, is whenever you came back from Iraq, serving there, what you didn't realize is that you would have this horrific lung disorder, right? It's called burn pit, right? And you were one of the first in the country, right, to kind of even find out about this. Through all of this, although you could barely breathe, I know you did the 100-mile bike. You went. I want to talk about the bodybuilding and the discipline that took, because what I want to do is talk about, at this point, was when you really discovered core values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I want to take our last couple of minutes, is that the value of figuring out what is important to you and how do you activate on it. And that's exactly what you did. I know freedom is one of your first, discipline is second. I know loyalty is big. But let's talk about when you came back and you made the decision, if I'm going to live, I am not going to live sick. I might be sick, but I'm not living sick. And I am going to do the hard things. That's what I want to be known for. So let's talk about what it took in your 40s to stand up there on that stage, being overweight your whole life. I'm going to pop up this picture again so that y'all can see this. This is absolutely just amazing that you truly went from here to here, and the discipline that took. And of course, Chris, who is your husband, is also walked with you through that. So let's talk about core values. How do you live that out? How do you figure out what that is, and how do you activate on that?
Well, I'll jump back to the fitness piece of it too. Coming back from Iraq, and then I think I was back about a year or so, and I was on a cruise. I was on a Mary Kay cruise, and I took my boys, and this was a me thing. I felt so insecure that whole trip. That was all me, because I was overweight. I felt inferior to other women. I sat in a corner. I mean, I was not me. I was not the me that I knew I should be. And I sat there as we got to the dock, to the pier, and I was like, that's it. I pulled out my cell phone, which back then, you barely had service anywhere. So I had to wait till we got back. And I called my neighbor, Josefina, who had just become a trainer. And I said, I'm done. I'm hiring you. We go to work tomorrow, because I was driving back, or whenever it was, Monday. We go to work Monday. And from there forward, we went 3 days a week. I would be there at 5 o'clock in the morning at the gym as soon as they opened it. We worked out 3 days a week. I did 2 days on my own. And I didn't know anything about food or nutrition. We did calories initially, right? It was, okay, cut your calories to 1,500 calories. And then she said, well, try to make these better choices. And she would just show some boxes of like protein pasta and stuff, And then from there, it's been this journey of food and refining it, not refining the food, but refining my diet. We don't want to refine the food. Okay, don't do that. We want clean and, all natural. Anyway, So it was just like this whole journey. And I've been everything from, doing that to being like a pescatarian where I only ate fish. And then, and then I went keto for a long time. And now it's more animal-based food with some carbohydrates, so I've done this whole thing, it's been a journey, just like my emotional management has been a journey. So has my nutritional management. And thank goodness I did all this when I did it, because I didn't know my lungs were failing me. So the beauty of it is kind of, maybe, I don't know, it was very gradual for me. 10 years, because I was dropping this weight. So I was taking the pressure off the lungs while the disease was progressing. Right. So I never really noticed it until I moved to Colorado, and then my lungs collapsed out of the blue. And that's when I noticed it. But I did do those hard things. I did, I did the Bataan Death March, the Bataan Memorial Death March, which was a full marathon in the desert. I did the 100-mile bike ride, or 500 miles across Texas. Twice I've done 100-mile bike rides in a day, like races. I've done, I don't know. I don't know why I'm geared towards that. I think anyone who has a goal needs to find something that just seems ridiculous, sign up for it and pay for it. Okay. And then go for it. Whether it's a fitness goal, a nutrition goal, a business goal, right? You've got to invest. You've got to have some skin in the game to force yourself on those days you don't want to get up and do it. Whether it's fitness, business, nutrition, whatever it is, you got to have skin in the game. That's just what I believe. Right. So same with our business. And that's why when I went Mary Kay, and I'm like, I'm going to go full time, which I do it full time in addition to a full time job. But initially, eventually I want this to be my retirement, right? Where I can step away from my government job. But I had to go all in. There was no playing around for me. All in, skin in the game, make it happen, invest in my, sorry about my knife hand, invest in my, personal development, professional development, all those things to take it seriously. And so I think we were getting to the core values, and going into that, the bodybuilding became almost a necessary thing, because I couldn't do the cardio type things anymore. I couldn't do the long distance cycling anymore. I couldn't do it and stay with a pack, which is what you have to do in those, right? I could do it all day long. It would just take me, a gazillion hours, because my endurance isn't there anymore. But the bodybuilding, I was like, I got to do something, or I'm going to sit here on the sofa. I'm going to get overweight again, and it's going to be worse for my health. There's nothing worse for a lung disease than to gain weight and be unhealthy, right? So I had to find something, and it was bodybuilding. And then I'm like, well, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it. So I went and decided I was going to do a show, paid for it, got my NPC card, all that stuff. And so I had to do it. I put it out there, so I had to do it. So I did. And I stood on stage I would look in the mirror, Diana, and I would be like, is that you? Mm-hmm. It was almost uncomfortable, mm-hmm. because for so long I saw myself as the fat girl. And that's all that played over and over and over in my head from, those years with my first husband and all the things. And then my second husband preferred, chubbier girls. So when I lost all my weight, he ignored me. So anyway, yeah. So it was just like, all that was playing in my head constantly, that it was almost hard to even accept what I was seeing in the mirror. And then to become even more critical and more critical and more, at some point I had that, finally I was like, I am in my moment. I have made it. Yeah. And that is what taught me so much discipline, was that bodybuilding prep. That taught me discipline. And so that is what, has now led to these core values that I have. And the core values, it's really just what defines you and what helps you know that you've had a day where you won the day, right? So, and it also helps you in defining like your best yes. We're reading a book called The Best Yes. How do you decide what the best yes is? Well, does it fall within my core values to say yes to this? So the core values are, my number 1 is freedom. Number 2 is discipline. 3 is excellence. 4 is courage. And 5 is loyalty. And if what I'm being asked to do, or with something that I'm faced with, doesn't work well with those core values, then I'm not doing it. And, I've even had a situation in my job where that came up, and it's like, okay, I'm getting really close to walking away if I have to keep doing this, because this does not work with my core values. And I'm not going to have my core values questioned daily. Like, I can't do that, because then that's an integrity issue. Right. So I really think that if you decide what your core values are. You can either decide them or you can take a test. They're like free little quizzes on Google. You Google it, my core values test, whatever, and you can figure it out. But once you decide what those are, you find out what those are, then that's how you operate your life, is within those core values. And that's how also when you're building a team like what we do in Mary Kay, you want to find people that relate to those core values. If discipline isn't something they have or want to learn, probably not my people. Not
Right.
everybody's my people, right? And not everybody's your people. So if excellence, if they're like, halfway is okay, probably not my people, if they're,
True. No,
it,
that's true. That's true.
yeah. So anyway, it's just a great way to kind of help define how you operate your life, you know?
And I just remember whenever you taught us, like when we were designing our why stories, like when we were presenting who we are, where we're going, who we're looking for. And, I just think that there's so many good choices, but there's very few great choices, best choices. And that's really what the core values has done with that. And that I also love the freedom that you give all of us, not to try to be all things to all people. And it's not that we judge people, right? If that's not your core value, doesn't mean you can't come play with us. I'm probably just not investing a lot of time there, right? And that in our world, I mean, freedom for most of us that are leading big in Mary Kay is part of what we do. That's why we do this, because we get the advantage of being an entrepreneur, but we've got, a 60-year-old multi-billion-dollar company back in. So you kind of get the best of both worlds there. So, I think that is true. And so as we wrap up today, this all started whenever really I kind of started with legacy changers. I know you love that. You do that in your business as well. But we have 3 questions for our legacy changers. This is going to be how I start wrapping up. Next week, it's going to be just me, and we're going to go through a whole chapter next week, just so that you know. And then, but here are the questions that I have for you, and we'll just rapid fire these. What advice would you give your younger self? What's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self whenever, especially in the realm of tools, right? Because we talked about having your emotional toolbox, having being able to have great emotional coping skills. So what advice would you give, other than the guy that picks you dancing on the table in Korea is probably not the one? I think that's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
But other than that particular one.
Yeah, my short answer is don't marry him. But anyway. But I would say, like, to develop good emotional skills.
Mm-hmm.
They don't teach it at a younger age. So
Right.
we have to go find it.
Yep.
And quite frankly, there are a lot of free resources out there now.
Mm-hmm.
There are, even on Instagram, you can find really good resources out there that can help you. So I would just say to develop that in because that is going to help you avoid a lot of the lessons that I had to learn without that.
Absolutely. I was just reading from Dave Van Mall, and one of the things she said is create a life that builds a legacy. And, there's your cornerstone pieces, is that emotional part of that. Number 2, what advice would you give a woman in your situation right now? You just turned, and I know you should be proud of this. You just turned 50, had the wedding of your dreams, living your best life, and allowing your husband to live his best life, because he likes living more adventuresome life all over the world, doing great things. And you're healthy enough, and y'all are healthy enough, physically, emotionally, and in your marriage. What advice would you give a woman now?
Yeah, and actually I'm 51, so I'll just go ahead and throw that out there.
It's like you're in your 20s. It's so funny.
Chris is older; he's 52. But I would say it's not too late. It is never too late. It's never too late to get in shape. It's never too late to eat right. It's never too late to be healthy. It's never too late to start a business. It's never too late to follow your dreams. It's never too late to set our goals and go for them. It is never too late. Never.
Oh, I love that. And type in too late if it's not too late, right? Because that is the truth. And then the last thing, and y'all probably heard this through her, kind of through all of this, but to wrap up, what have you overcome, right, in your life that others said it would be impossible? What have you overcome in your life, or even if you want to, even in the last year, however, if you want to do short-term, long-term, what have you overcome that others told you that would be impossible to do, Veronica?
Yeah, I mean, really, my health and the way that I live, I shock all the doctors. I shock them.
Mhm.
And it is all because of pure discipline and how I eat, how I live, how the toxins in my home, not having them, all the things that I have to do. It is a discipline in and of itself.
Mhm.
But I would say to be as stable as I am right now
Mhm.
with a progressive, eventually terminal lung disease, I what a doctor told me I'm the head scratcher is what he said.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
because they just can't figure me out how I bounce back like I do whenever I have those episodes or, have done as well as I have.
Yeah, absolutely. You are absolutely fabulous. And now if people want to kind of follow you, whether, for your Mary Kay or, she teaches everything, just so you know, she got 2 great dogs. She talks about marriage, she talks about health, all of that. So if somebody is like, okay, you know what, I am in love with Veronica, just like Diana is, she's like I want her to be my friend. How could they follow you?
So my branding is Fleur de Life, FLEUR, like a Fleur de Life.
Hmm.
And so on Instagram, it's Veronica Fleur de Life.
Hmm.
Okay. And then on Facebook, it's Veronica Eyck.
Hmm.
And then I have my Veronica's Fleur de Life group as well.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. I feel like our box is so full that now we can really start erasing and replacing. And so for all of our Sparkle sisters, what is your assignment? I would love for you to type in the comments again so that me and Veronica can look through these. What are the 3 labels, those 3 thoughts, or the 3 things that somebody told you that was impossible, right? That you don't want it to be true, so that you can erase it, right? So what is it, and what are you going to erase and replace with that? And then this week, find ways to live out the erased side of that. And I'm telling you, by the time we get back together next Wednesday, your shoulders are going to be back. You're going to feel better. You're going to feel more in control. Veronica, I love you as a daughter. I love who you've become. I'm so excited about your future. I'm so excited for you and I to be nationals together. I'm so excited for all the lives that you're going to impact. Thank you. Thank you for choosing freedom and discipline and excellence and loyalty and all that you do. All right. Y'all have a great week. Okay. Bye-bye, y'all.